I never thought I'd be plotting revenge at my own brother's wedding reception, but there I was, gripping my champagne flute so hard I thought it might shatter. The way Eric looked at Natalia wasn't love, it was triumph. I'd seen that same expression when he'd close big deals at the office, and it made my stomach turn. My name is Mackenzie, and until 6 months ago, I thought I knew everything about my family's business and the people I loved most. Now, watching my brother spin my best friend around the dance floor in her white dress, I realized how wrong I'd been. "You're going to burn a hole through them with that stare," Miguel said, appearing beside me. Our family lawyer had been around since we were kids, and he could read me like a book. "Something's not right," I muttered, taking another sip. "The timing is too convenient." Miguel's expression darkened. "You need to hear something, not here." He gestured toward the garden terrace. Outside, the summer air was thick with jasmine. Miguel pulled out his phone and played a recording. Eric's voice filled the space between us. "Once I'm married to Natalia, the board won't have a choice. They'll have to see me as the natural successor. Mackenzie won't know what hit her." My hand trembled. "When was this?" 3 weeks before the engagement. There's more." Miguel swiped through some documents on his phone. "He's been making moves behind the scenes, leveraging his position to set up a power play." "Does Natalia know?" "I don't think so. From what I can tell, she genuinely loves him." The music from inside swelled, and I caught glimpses of the reception through the windows. Autumn, our head of PR, was watching me with concern. She'd been trying to get my attention all evening. "Mackenzie!" Natalia's voice made me jump. She appeared in the doorway, radiant and smiling. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." I forced a smile, hugging her tightly. "Just getting some air. You look beautiful. Come dance with us, both of you." She grabbed my hand, pulling me inside. As we moved through the crowd, Eric intercepted us. "Mind if I steal my sister for a moment?" His smile was perfect, practiced. Everything about him was. We stepped onto the dance floor, and he took the lead. "Happy for me, sis?" "That depends," I said, keeping my voice low. "Are you happy because you love her, or because you think marrying her gives you a shot at CEO?" His step faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" "Cut the act, Eric. I know about your little plan." He pulled me closer, his grip tightening. "You always were Dad's favorite, but things change. The board needs stability, tradition, a male heir." "It's 2023, not 1923, I hissed. "And you're making a massive mistake." "Am I?" His smile turned cold. "We'll see about that." The song ended and I broke away, my mind racing. Autumn appeared at my elbow with a fresh drink and a concerned look. "You okay, boss?" "No," I admitted, "but I will be." An idea was forming. Dangerous, maybe cruel, but necessary. "I need you to do something for me. Anything. Get me everything you can on the Dean family holdings, and I mean everything." She raised an eyebrow. "Natalia's family?" "Yes. I have a feeling there's a lot my dear brother doesn't know about his new bride." Across the room, Natalia was laughing at something Paris Henderson was saying. Paris, our biggest competitor, had been circling our company like a shark lately. The sight of them together made my blood run cold. Miguel appeared again, this time with a folder. "You might want to see this now." Inside were bank statements, transfer records, all with Eric's signature. My hands started shaking again, but this time with anger. "He's been moving money around," Miguel explained quietly. "Setting up shell companies, making risky investments. If these go south, the company could tank," I finished. "And he's doing this while trying to position himself as CEO?" "Exactly." I watched Eric rejoin Natalia, sliding his arm around her waist possessively. My best friend, the woman who'd stood by me through everything. He thought he was using her to get to me, but he had no idea who he was really dealing with. "Miguel," I said, not taking my eyes off the happy couple, "I need you to draft some papers. Make it look like routine succession planning. What are you thinking?" A small, dangerous smile crossed my face. "I'm thinking it's time to show my brother exactly what happens when you underestimate the women in your life." The reception continued around us, a swirl of laughter and music and champagne toasts. But underneath it all, I could feel the wheels starting to turn. Eric wanted a war? Fine. But he was about to learn that some battles are lost before they even begin. I raised my glass in their direction, catching Natalia's eye. She beamed at me, and my heart ached. Soon enough, she'd know everything, and then we'd see who really deserved to lead this company into the future. 2 weeks after the wedding, I sat in my father's old office, my office now, staring at the stack of financial reports Miguel had compiled. Each page revealed another layer of Eric's schemes, and my blood pressure rose with every revelation. A knock at the door made me look up. Natalia stood there, looking polished in a charcoal suit. "Got a minute?" "For you?" "Always." I gestured to the chair across from me, quickly sliding the reports into a drawer. She sat down, fidgeting with her wedding ring. "Something's wrong with the Singapore merger numbers. I've been over them 3 times and they don't add up." My heart skipped. Those were Eric's pet projects. "Show me." She pulled out her tablet, sliding it across the desk. As I scrolled through her analysis, I couldn't help but smile. She'd caught discrepancies that even our auditors had missed. "This is brilliant work," I said. "Have you shown Eric?" A shadow crossed her face. He told me to stay out of it, said it wasn't my place to question his decisions." "Not your place?" I repeated, anger flaring. "You have an MBA from Harvard and ran your family's Asia operations for 5 years." "He doesn't know about that," she said quietly. I sat back, stunned. "What do you mean?" "When we met, I was just helping my father with some basic accounting. Eric assumed—" She shrugged. "I never corrected him." The pieces started falling into place. Why not? Because for once, someone wasn't intimidated by my background. He just saw me as... me. Her voice cracked slightly. "Stupid, right?" Before I could respond, Autumn burst into the office. "Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. Paris Henderson is downstairs with 2 board members. They're demanding an emergency meeting." "What? Why?" "Rumors about financial irregularities. Someone leaked information about the Singapore projects." Natalia's face went pale. I stood up, straightening my jacket. "Get Miguel up here now, and find Eric." "He's not in the building," Autumn said. "His assistant said he's at a golf course with investors." "Of course he is," I muttered. "Natalia, I need your help. Those numbers you found, can you put together a presentation in the next hour?" She hesitated. "Eric wouldn't like that." "Eric isn't here. And right now, we need someone who actually understands international finance, please." Our eyes met, and I saw something shift in her expression. She nodded, pulling out her laptop. The next hour was a blur of preparation. Miguel arrived with legal documents, Autumn coordinated with PR, and Natalia worked miracles with spreadsheets. When we walked into the boardroom, Paris's smug smile faltered slightly. "Ladies, gentlemen," I said, taking my place at the head of the table. "I understand you have concerns. Let me address them." What followed was a masterclass in financial analysis led by Natalia. She broke down every transaction, explained every discrepancy, and presented a clear path forward. The board members were captivated. Paris looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. "So you see," Natalia concluded, "while there were some unconventional decisions made, we've identified the issues and have a solid strategy to correct course." "Impressive," one of the board members said. "Very impressive indeed. Ms. Henderson, I believe your concerns have been thoroughly addressed." Paris stood up, gathering her things. "For now, but the shareholders will have questions about leadership stability." "They certainly will," I agreed, "which is why I'm announcing some changes to our succession plan." Miguel, he distributed folders to everyone present. "These documents outline our new leadership structure, including the creation of a chief strategy officer position." "And who will fill this role?" Paris demanded. I smiled. "Natalia Montgomery will be assuming the position effective immediately." The room erupted in murmurs. Natalia stared at me, shock written across her face. Before anyone could object, Eric burst through the door, still in his golf clothes. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded. "Damage control," I said calmly. "Your wife just saved us from a potential crisis. You should be proud." He looked from me to Natalia, his face reddening. "We'll discuss this at home." "No," Natalia said, standing up. "We'll discuss it here, now. I've spent too long hiding what I'm capable of, and I'm done." The board members exchanged impressed looks. Paris slipped out, clearly realizing her plan had backfired. Eric stood frozen, finally seeing his wife, really seeing her, for the first time. After the meeting, Natalia caught up with me in the hallway. "Did you know about my background?" "I did my research after the wedding. The question is, why didn't you tell me sooner?" She looked away. "I thought I could handle things on my own. I didn't want to come between you and Eric." I took her hand. "You're not just my sister-in-law, you're my best friend. And now you're also our CSO. No more hiding who you are." She squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. "Thank you." As we walked back to my office, I couldn't help but smile. Phase 1 of my plan was complete, and Eric had no idea what was coming next. The next month flew by in a whirlwind of meetings and strategic planning sessions. Natalia and I worked late most nights, rebuilding what Eric had nearly destroyed. Tonight, we were holed up in my office, takeout containers littering the desk between us. "Look at this," Natalia said, turning her laptop toward me. "There's a small tech firm in Seattle that's been flying under the radar. Their AI integration software could revolutionize our manufacturing process." I leaned forward, scanning the numbers. "How did you find this?" "I've been tracking them for months. They're looking for investors, but—" She hesitated, biting her lip. "But what?" "Paris Henderson has a meeting with them next week." I sat back, running my hands through my hair. "Of course she does. That woman's like a shadow lately." "There's something else." Natalia lowered her voice. "The firm's CEO used to work with my father. I could reach out personally, off the record." A knock interrupted us. Miguel entered, looking grim. "We have a problem. Eric's been meeting with board members privately. He's pushing for a vote of no confidence." My stomach dropped. "Against me?" "Both of you. He's claiming nepotism in Natalia's appointment and questioning your judgment." Natalia's face hardened. "He's still trying to control me, even at work. Last night, he actually suggested I should focus on starting a family instead of playing businesswoman." "Playing?" I repeated, anger rising. "You've increased efficiency by 30% in 4 weeks." "He doesn't see that. He doesn't want to see it." She stood up, pacing. "But I might know something that could change everything." Miguel and I exchanged looks. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Remember that tech firm I mentioned? There's a reason Paris is interested. They're sitting on a patent that could transform the entire industry, but they're worried about being swallowed by a larger corporation." "Like Henderson Industries," Miguel said. "Exactly. But what if—" Natalia's eyes lit up. "What if we offered them something different? A partnership instead of an acquisition. Let them maintain autonomy while giving them the resources to scale." I felt a smile spreading across my face. "And if we secure that partnership before Paris's meeting, it would show the board exactly who's really qualified to lead this company," Miguel finished. Autumn burst in without knocking. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this." She handed me her phone, showing an email from one of our major shareholders. "They're calling for an emergency board meeting next week," I read aloud, "to discuss leadership concerns and succession planning." "Eric's making his move," Miguel said. Natalia grabbed her coat. "Then we need to move faster. I'm flying to Seattle tonight." "What? No, it's too risky," I protested. "Trust me," she said, her eyes blazing with determination. "I know what I'm doing." After she left, Autumn lingered. "Should we be worried?" "About Natalia? No." I smiled. "About Eric's reaction when he realizes what's happening? Definitely." The next few days were tense. Eric strutted around the office like he'd already won, while Natalia was mysteriously absent. When she finally returned, she walked straight into my office and closed the door. "Well?" I asked. She dropped a signed contract on my desk. "They're in. Full partnership agreement, exclusive rights to implement their technology across our facilities." "How did you—" "Let's just say my father taught me more than basic accounting." She grinned. The papers will be filed publicly tomorrow morning, right before the board meeting. I jumped up and hugged her. You're incredible. There's more, she said, pulling back. While I was there, I discovered something about Paris. She's been artificially inflating her company's value to fund a hostile takeover. Of us? Of anyone she can get her hands on. I have proof. She patted her briefcase, complete with paper trails and witness statements. Miguel, who'd been quietly listening, let out a low whistle. This changes everything. It gets better, Natalia continued. Remember those shell companies Eric set up? Turns out he's been working with Paris. They plan to weaken us from the inside, then let her swoop in and save the company. My hands clenched into fists. My own brother. Who's currently celebrating at Leblanc with Paris, Autumn added, showing us a photo on her phone. Apparently they've been having regular strategy dinners. I looked at the team assembled in my office, loyal, brilliant people who actually cared about the company's future. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We worked through the night, preparing for the board meeting. As dawn broke, Natalia paused in her typing. Mackenzie, she said softly, thank you for seeing me, the real me. I always did, I replied. I just needed everyone else to see it too. She smiled, then turned back to her laptop. Oh, and one more thing. That tech firm's CEO, he's joining us for the board meeting tomorrow, in person. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Really. And wait until you hear what else he has to say about Paris Henderson. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly confident. Tomorrow would change everything. For the company, for Natalia, and especially for my dear brother. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than happy to provide it. As I sat in my office before the board meeting, my mind drifted back to Eric and Natalia's wedding day. The memory felt different now, tainted by what I knew. You're not going to believe this, Autumn said, bursting into my office. She pulled up security footage on her tablet. Watch. The video showed Eric and Paris in the parking garage late last night, arguing intensely. Even without audio, their body language told the story. Can we get sound? I asked. Autumn tapped the screen, and Paris's voice filled the room. You promised me control. The deal was supposed to be done months ago. I'm handling it, Eric snapped back. Once Mackenzie's out, everything falls into place. Your wife is becoming a problem. She's too smart, too capable. This isn't what we planned. Eric grabbed Paris's arm. I said I'm handling it. The footage ended. I felt sick. When was this? 2 a.m. There's more. Autumn pulled up an email chain. They've been planning this since before the wedding. Look at the dates. I scrolled through, my hands shaking. The emails detailed everything. Their scheme to weaken the company, push me out, and sell to Paris at a fraction of its worth. All while Natalia was planning her wedding, thinking she'd found true love. A soft knock made us both jump. Natalia stood in the doorway, looking elegant in a navy suit. The board's assembling. Are you ready? Are you? I asked. This won't be easy. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I've been preparing for this longer than you know. She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo from her wedding day. In it, she was alone in her dressing room, staring at her reflection. Autumn took this, remember? Autumn nodded. You asked me to check on her before the ceremony. I knew something was wrong even then, Natalia said quietly. I just didn't want to admit it. The way Eric changed after the engagement, the secret meetings, the way he'd dismiss my suggestions about the business. Why did you go through with it? I asked. Because I thought I could change him, show him I was more than just a trophy wife. She laughed bitterly. Stupid, right? Not stupid, I said, standing up. Human. Miguel appeared in the doorway. They're ready for us, and our guest from Seattle just arrived. We walked to the boardroom together, a united front. Inside, Eric sat next to Paris, both looking smugly confident. The board members filled the remaining seats, with one conspicuously empty chair at the end. Before we begin, I said, taking my place at the head of the table, I'd like to introduce a special guest. On cue, James Walker, CEO of the Seattle tech firm, walked in. The color drained from Paris's face. James, she stammered. What are you doing here? Supporting my new partners, he replied coolly, taking the empty seat and setting the record straight. Eric's confident smile faltered. Partners? Natalia stepped forward, distributing folders to each board member. As of this morning, we've entered into an exclusive partnership with Mr. Walker's company. The paperwork has already been filed. That's impossible, Paris snapped. We had a deal. No, you had a scheme, James corrected. One that involved artificially inflating your company's value and attempting hostile takeovers. Would you like me to share the evidence with everyone? The board members began murmuring, flipping through the documents. Eric stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You can't just... Sit down, Natalia said, her voice like steel. We're not finished. She clicked a remote, and the parking garage footage played on the boardroom screen. The color drained from Eric's face as his own words filled the room. As you can see, I said when the video ended, certain parties have been working to undermine this company's stability for personal gain. The evidence is in your folders, along with our comprehensive plan to move forward. This is a witch hunt, Paris declared, standing up. You can't prove... Actually, James interrupted, we can prove everything, including your attempt to bribe my CFO last week. The next hour was brutal. Every scheme, every manipulation, every betrayal laid bare before the board. When the dust settled, Paris stormed out. Eric sat shell-shocked, and the board voted unanimously to approve our new leadership structure. After the meeting, I found Natalia in her office, staring out the window. You okay? I asked. No, she admitted, but I will be. She turned to face me. You know what's funny? I actually loved him, or who I thought he was. I know, I pulled her into a hug. I'm so sorry. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Don't be. This needed to happen. And now... She gestured to the Seattle contract on her desk. Now we build something better. Together, I added. Together, she agreed, then smiled mischievously. Oh, and wait until you hear what else James told me about Paris's company. We're not done yet. Looking at her then, I saw not just my best friend or my sister-in-law, but a force to be reckoned with. Eric had no idea what he'd lost, but we knew exactly what we'd gained. The aftermath of the board meeting hit like a tsunami. Paris's company's stock plummeted when the news broke about her fraudulent practices. Reporters camped outside our building, hungry for details about the corporate scandal. Through it all, Natalia remained focused, determined, and absolutely brilliant. Look at these projections, she said, spreading documents across my desk. If we implement the new AI systems in phases, we can triple productivity within 18 months. I was about to respond when Autumn rushed in. We've got a situation. Eric's downstairs making a scene. What kind of scene? I asked, already standing. The drunk, angry kind. Security's trying to contain him, but he's demanding to see both of you. Natalia's face hardened. I'll handle this. We'll handle this, I corrected, following her to the elevator. When the doors opened to the lobby, we found Eric red-faced and shouting at 2 security guards. His expensive suit was rumpled, and he reeked of whiskey. There they are, he slurred, pointing at us. The backstabbing bitches themselves. That's enough, Natalia said firmly. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? He laughed bitterly. You've been playing me this whole time, both of you. No, Eric, I stepped forward. You played yourself, and you played with people's lives like they were chess pieces. He lunged forward, but the security guards held him back. You think you're so smart? Wait until the shareholders hear about your little power grab. You mean the power grab that saved the company millions? Natalia's voice was ice cold. Or should we discuss your offshore accounts with Paris? That stopped him short. What are you talking about? The Cayman Islands accounts, I said, watching his face pale. The ones you thought were untraceable. Miguel found them yesterday. You had no right. I had every right, Natalia exploded. I'm your wife. I trusted you. I loved you. And all this time, you were just using me to get to the company? The lobby fell silent. Even the security guards looked uncomfortable. Nat, Eric's voice softened, trying a different approach. Baby, we can work this out. Everything I did was for us, for our future. Stop. She held up her hand. Just stop. I've already filed for divorce. You what? His face contorted with rage. You can't do that! Actually, she can, Miguel's voice came from behind us. He stepped forward, holding a thick envelope. These are for you, Eric. Divorce papers, along with a cease and desist order. You're not welcome on company property. This isn't over, Eric snarled, snatching the envelope. You'll regret this. All of you. As security escorted him out, I noticed James watching from near the reception desk. He walked over, looking impressed. Well, that was entertaining, he said. Is it always this exciting around here? Only on Tuesdays, Natalia replied, smoothing her jacket. Shall we discuss those integration timelines? Back in my office, Autumn had already prepared damage control statements for the press. Social media's blowing up about Eric's meltdown. Someone recorded it on their phone. Perfect, I muttered. Just what we need. Actually, Miguel interjected, this could work in our favor. The video shows him being unstable and aggressive, while you both remained professional. It supports our narrative. He's right, James added. The market responds to strength and stability. You just demonstrated both. Natalia was quiet, staring at her wedding ring. Without a word, she slipped it off and dropped it in her desk drawer. The Seattle team arrives tomorrow to begin system integration. We should focus on that. Are you okay? I asked softly. She looked up, and I saw fierce determination in her eyes. I'm better than okay. For the first time in months, I can breathe. Now, about those productivity projections. The rest of the day was a blur of meetings and planning sessions. As evening fell, I found Natalia still at her desk, surrounded by spreadsheets. You should go home, I said. Home to what? She sighed. An empty house full of wedding photos and lies? Stay with me, I offered. My guest room's always ready for you. She smiled gratefully. Thanks, but I already booked a hotel. I need space, time to think. About what comes next. About everything. She stood up, gathering her things. You know what's ironic? Eric thought he was using me to get control of the company, but he accidentally put me exactly where I needed to be to save it. Karma's funny that way. It is. She paused at the door. Paris called earlier. Wanted to make a deal. My heart stopped. And? A slow, dangerous smile spread across Natalia's face. Let's just say she's going to regret underestimating us even more than Eric does. Watching her leave, I couldn't help but feel proud. My brother had tried to break her, but instead, he'd helped forge her into something stronger. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about becoming exactly who you were meant to be. The integration of James's AI technology was going smoothly when Paris made her next move. I was in a meeting with the Seattle team when Autumn burst in, tablet in hand. You need to see this, she said, pulling up a financial news site. The headline made my blood run cold. Henderson Industries announces merger with Asian tech giant. Montgomery acquisition next. She's bluffing, I said, but my voice wavered. No, she's not. Natalia appeared in the doorway, looking grim. The merger's real. They signed this morning. James stood up from the conference table. That's impossible. Their financials couldn't support a deal that size. Unless, Natalia's eyes narrowed, they had help. Autumn, pull up Eric's personal bank records from last month. The room fell silent as we studied the transactions. There it was, a massive transfer to an overseas account, followed by a series of smaller deposits into Paris's corporate holdings. He liquidated his trust fund, I whispered. All of it. To help finance Paris's merger, Natalia confirmed, and now they have enough capital to attempt a hostile takeover. My phone buzzed, a text from Miguel. Emergency board meeting called. 1 hour, Paris and Eric will be there. Perfect, Natalia said, reading over my shoulder. That's exactly what we need. What do you mean? She grabbed her laptop. Remember when I said Paris called to make a deal? I recorded everything, including her admission about the fraudulent valuations. Is that legal? James asked. In this state? Absolutely. Especially when discussing criminal activity. She smiled grimly. But that's not even the best part. For the next 45 minutes we prepared. When we walked into the boardroom, Paris and Eric were already there, looking smug. Several board members appeared nervous. "Before we begin," Paris announced, standing, "I'd like to present an offer for acquisition. With our new merger—" "Actually," I interrupted, "we have something to present first." I nodded to Natalia, who connected her laptop to the room's audio system. Paris's voice filled the room. "Of course the numbers are fake, you idiot. That's how these deals work. We inflate the value, secure the merger, then use the combined assets to force Montgomery's hand." Eric's voice followed. "But what about the regulatory oversight?" "Please," Paris scoffed. "By the time they catch on, it'll be too late. Your sister and that bitch you married won't know what hit them." The color drained from Paris's face. Eric jumped up. "You recorded our private conversations? That's illegal." "Wrong again," Miguel said, entering with a stack of documents. "These conversations took place in Ms. Montgomery's office, which has clear signage about audio monitoring, standard security protocol." "You set me up," Paris hissed at Natalia. "No, you set yourself up. I just let you talk." Natalia turned to the board. "The merger announcement this morning was based on fraudulent valuations. The SEC has already been notified." "You're lying!" Paris grabbed her phone, frantically checking something. Her face went ashen. No. "Your company's stock is in freefall," I explained. "And those overseas accounts Eric used to help finance the deal? Frozen." Eric lunged across the table at Natalia. "You vindictive—" James and 2 board members grabbed him before he could reach her. Security rushed in. "Get them out of here," I ordered, "and make sure they don't leave the building. The FBI wants to ask them some questions." As they were led away, Paris struggling and Eric shouting threats, one of the board members turned to Natalia. "How long have you known about this?" "Since the wedding," she replied calmly. "I suspected something was wrong when Eric suddenly became interested in my father's Asian business connections, so I started digging." "And you didn't say anything?" "I said everything," she smiled. "Just not to them." After the board meeting concluded, with a unanimous vote to pursue legal action against Paris and Eric, I found Natalia in her office, staring at a photo from her wedding day. "Having regrets?" I asked. "No." She dropped the photo in the trash. "Having revelations. All this time, I thought Eric chose me because he saw something special in me, but he just saw an opportunity." "He was wrong," I said. "You are special, and now everyone knows it." Her phone buzzed, a news alert. Paris's company had suspended trading. The merger was officially dead. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now?" I grinned. "Now we build something amazing. James's team is ready to begin the full AI implementation. Our stock is soaring, and we have a chance to reshape the entire industry, without Paris or Eric to interfere." "Exactly," I paused. "Though I have to ask, how did you know Paris would take the bait? What if she hadn't called you?" Natalia laughed. "Because I know people like her. Show them a weakness, real or imagined, and they can't resist going for the kill. She thought I was a heartbroken wife willing to betray you for revenge. Instead, she walked right into our trap." "Karma's funny that way," she said, echoing our earlier conversation. "Now, should we discuss the real merger I've been working on? The one that's actually going to change everything?" I raised an eyebrow. "There's more?" Her smile was brilliant. "There's always more. And this time, we're playing to win." 3 months after Paris and Eric's arrest, we gathered in the main conference room for what would be the most important presentation of our lives. The room was packed with shareholders, board members, and international press. "Ready?" I asked Natalia, who was reviewing her notes one last time. "Born ready," she replied, but I caught her hands trembling slightly. James appeared beside us. "The European team is connected via video conference. Everything's set." I took my place at the podium, facing the expectant crowd. "Good morning. 6 months ago, this company faced its darkest hour. Today, we're about to show you its brightest future." Natalia stepped forward, clicking through the first slides. "What you're about to see isn't just an innovation. It's a revolution in how we approach global manufacturing." The presentation unfolded like a perfectly choreographed dance. We showed them the results of our AI integration. Productivity up 340%, costs down 60%. But that was just the warm-up. Now, Natalia said, her voice strong and clear, let me show you what's next. The screens lit up with a new logo, a merger of our company and 3 international tech firms, creating the world's first truly integrated smart manufacturing network. The room erupted in whispers. A prominent investor raised his hand. These firms were Paris Henderson's targets. Yes, Natalia smiled. But while she was trying to force hostile takeovers, we were building partnerships, real ones, based on mutual respect and shared vision. The combined value, James added, is projected to exceed $50 billion in the first year alone. More hands shot up, questions flying. Natalia handled them all with grace and precision, her knowledge of international markets shining through. I couldn't help but think about Eric, sitting in his jail cell, realizing what he'd thrown away. Suddenly, the door burst open. A woman in an expensive suit strode in, Paris's sister and new CEO of Henderson Industries. This is illegal, she announced. These firms were in negotiations with us. Actually, Miguel stood up from his seat. Those negotiations were based on fraudulent representations made by your sister. The SEC findings were quite clear on that point. Furthermore, Natalia added, pulling up a new slide, these partnerships were finalized last week. The paperwork has already been filed. The room buzzed with excitement. Reporters frantically typed on their phones. Henderson's face turned red. You'll regret this, she hissed, echoing her sister's words from months ago. No, I said firmly. We won't. Security, please show Ms. Henderson out. As she was escorted away, an elderly board member stood up. I've been with this company for 40 years, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Never in my life did I imagine we could achieve something like this. Ms. Montgomery, both of you, you've done the impossible. The room erupted in applause. Natalia caught my eye, and I saw tears threatening to spill. This was her moment, her vindication. After the presentation, as champagne flowed and stock prices soared, Autumn rushed over with her tablet. You need to see this. Eric just released a statement from prison. We huddled around the screen, reading, I apologize to my sister Mackenzie, and especially to my wife Natalia. My greed and arrogance blinded me to your true worth. I destroyed everything we could have built together. Too little, too late, Natalia said softly, twisting her now bare ring finger. James joined us, grinning. The European markets are going crazy. We're trending worldwide. Speaking of worldwide, Natalia turned to me. Should we tell them about Phase 2? I nodded and she pulled up another presentation on her tablet. My eyes widened as I read through it. This is incredible, I breathed. When did you develop this? Those late nights at the hotel weren't just about avoiding memories, she said. I had some time to think big, really big. The plan was audacious, a complete reimagining of how global manufacturing could work. It would change everything. The board will never go for it, James warned. It's too revolutionary. The board just watched us pull off the impossible, I reminded him. They'll go for it. Natalia's phone buzzed. Another news alert. Paris had pleaded guilty to all charges. The Henderson empire was crumbling. Karma really is something, Autumn mused. No, Natalia corrected. Hard work is something. Strategy is something. Karma just enjoys the show. As the celebration continued around us, I pulled Natalia aside. You know, when I first planned to get revenge on Eric, I never imagined it would lead to this. That's because you weren't really planning revenge, she said wisely. You were planning justice, and justice has a way of creating opportunities. Looking around the room, at our triumphant team, our excited shareholders, the future we were building, I realized she was right. This wasn't about destroying Eric or Paris anymore. It was about creating something they could never imagine, something bigger than revenge. Ready to change the world? I asked. Natalia straightened her jacket, that familiar determined glint in her eye. Always. But first, let me show you what I have planned for Asia. The autumn breeze rustled through the courtyard as I watched Natalia step out of the courthouse. Her divorce was finally official, and with it, the last ties to our old life were severed. How do you feel? I asked as she approached. Lighter, she said, smiling. Free. She checked her watch. We should hurry. The ceremony starts in an hour. The drive to our headquarters felt surreal. Today wasn't just about ending something old. It was about beginning something extraordinary. The lobby was packed with employees, all gathered for the announcement. As we made our way to the elevator, I spotted a familiar face trying to blend into the crowd. Eric? I called out. He turned, looking smaller somehow in his cheap suit, fresh out of his shortened sentence. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said quickly. I needed to see this. Natalia stepped forward, her voice steady. Why? Because I was wrong. About everything. He swallowed hard. What you've built here, what you're about to announce, it's incredible. I read about the Asian expansion in the papers. You could have been part of it, I said quietly. I know. He looked at Natalia. I had everything and threw it away for nothing. Not nothing, she corrected. For a lesson. Did you learn it? Before he could answer, Miguel appeared. They're ready for you upstairs. In the executive conference room, James and the board waited with barely contained excitement. The wall-mounted screens showed partners from around the world connected virtually. Before we begin, the board chairman announced, I want to acknowledge something remarkable. 1 year ago, this company faced potential destruction. Today, we're about to witness history. I took my place at the head of the table, Natalia beside me. What we're announcing today isn't just a change in leadership, it's a change in perspective. Natalia clicked through the presentation. Our global initiative has exceeded every projection. The AI integration has revolutionized manufacturing across 3 continents. But that was just the foundation. She outlined the next phase, a complete restructuring that would transform the company into a technological powerhouse. The numbers were staggering, the innovation unprecedented. Which brings us to the real announcement, I said, standing. After careful consideration, I've decided to step down as CEO. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Through the glass walls, I could see Eric's face in the crowd outside, stunned. But, I continued smiling, I'm not going far. I'll be heading our new International Innovation Division, working directly with James and our partners worldwide. And taking my place, Natalia stepped forward, as Chief Executive Officer, is the person who saw possibilities where others saw obstacles, the woman who turned revenge into revolution. The board members stood, applauding. On the screens, our international partners beamed. Through the glass, employees cheered. I have one condition, Natalia said, her voice carrying over the noise. Mackenzie and I lead together, as equals, different titles, same mission. Approved, the chairman said immediately. Unanimously. After the ceremony, I found Eric waiting by my office. You knew, he said. From the beginning, you knew what she was capable of. I did. That's why your betrayal hurt so much. You had a partner who could have helped you become something better. He nodded slowly. I'm starting over, a small consulting firm in Seattle, doing things right this time. Good luck, Natalia said, joining us. I mean that. As he walked away, Autumn rushed up with breaking news. Paris Henderson had been sentenced to 15 years. Her empire was being divided among smaller companies. Poetic justice, Miguel commented. No, Natalia said thoughtfully. Just justice. The poetry is what we write next. That evening, as the city lights twinkled below our office windows, Natalia and I shared a quiet moment. Remember when you first discovered Eric's plan? She asked. When you decided to get revenge? Seems like a lifetime ago. You could have destroyed him. Destroyed them both. Instead, you chose to build something. We chose, I corrected. You could have stayed angry, stayed broken. Instead, you became unstoppable. She laughed. We both did. Her phone buzzed. Another international partner wanting to join our initiative. Ready to change the world? With you, always. As we walked into the boardroom for our first official meeting as co-leaders, I caught our reflection in the glass. 2 women who turned betrayal into triumph, pain into power, endings into beginnings. You know what the best revenge is? Natalia asked, taking her seat at the head of the table. What's that? She smiled, pulling up our next presentation, proving them right about being afraid of what we're capable of. The room filled with board members and executives, all eager to hear our next vision. Through the windows, I could see the sun setting on our old story and rising on something new, something better. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned. It was so much more. It was justice, served not cold, but blazing with possibility. Let's begin, we said together, and the future opened before us like a door we'd built ourselves.